A few weeks ago, we talked about my three biggest struggles from my first semester at BYU Idaho as a business management major. And those struggles were checking in with myself. I wasn't doing that enough. My schedule was a bit too flexible, so you'd find me walking around on campus talking to people pretty much all day long sometimes. And the fact that I didn't prioritize getting to know my roommates enough. Today, we're going to be talking about the three big struggles that I had from my second semester, and they were not planning ahead and not speaking up and not nourishing past friendships. Honestly, fall 2018 was so good. This is when Aaron got back from his mission, got to spend a lot of time with him, met his friend Tim. I met Sam through the YouTube workshop I was running. I was a new student mentor for the first time. I was working at Pathway Worldwide. It was such a good semester. So it was hard to find some struggles, but I think we found some. And I really hope that this episode gives you some perspective. And especially if you're in your second semester, hopefully this will give you some help or clarity. And with that all said, we'll just jump right into it. Thank you as always for the support. So, the first thing I really wanted to talk about was the need to plan ahead. I did this pretty well with getting started with my semester. I had worked at Pathway Worldwide a little bit. Middle of the summer is when I started. I'd looked for a job, couldn't find one. Then I reached out to this one guy, Enrique, who I'd met that previous semester from just going around and talking to people. He's like, hey, yeah, here's the email of the person. And I was able to get a job, and I was able to help my friend Robert get a job, which definitely to my credit because there was only 9 spots, and I was like, hey, you should apply. And we had such a blast working there together. So many good memories, so many good memories. But sometimes, with I had an English class, and that class had early morning assignments, turning those in at like 9:45. So it wasn't early, but there'd be some days I'd get to class and I'd already worked for 2 hours or so. And I didn't do that every day. That would have been insane. But I did that a couple days, and it was such a manageable schedule. It was so good. It was good. It was good. Like, but there's times where I wouldn't prioritize printing out something the day before, and so I'd have to print the day of, the morning of, sometimes even write after work. Literally, I'd be writing, and then I would print, and it was scary. It was sketchy. And same thing with my intro to entrepreneurship class. I loved it, but sometimes I didn't plan ahead enough, and I suffered a little bit for it. One of the big, you know, things I remember from that class is this one time I came to class and they had the top hat code so I to like get your attendance, and I got there like 5 minutes after class started, and the top hat code was already gone and they weren't taking any more people. And I was like, what the heck? I was like, well, okay. I didn't get credit for that day, and I asked the teacher about it. He's like, yeah, you should have been here earlier. And it was a real cut down, but it taught me a lot. Like, you gotta plan ahead if you want good things to happen. You can't just expect great things to happen because you have a pretty great setup. Things change, things happen. And it's interesting because I definitely planned ahead super good this semester, but I think I could have planned ahead a little bit better. I did a good job planning ahead on the dates I went on and the YouTube workshop, obviously. Well, I guess it's not obvious because you weren't there, but it was cool. I mean, that's how I met Sam. That's how I met a lot of cool people that I still keep in touch with, was from the workshop. And basically, what I did with that YouTube workshop, started it freshman first semester. I'd teach people how to build YouTube channels and stuff, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, planning ahead really helps you to control what you can control. And there was a lot I couldn't control that happened this semester. More on that later. But I think I could have done a better job of like planning ahead as far as the overall semester goes. Like, what are my goals? I had a couple things I was going after, but didn't really have very specific goals. So trying to get better at that would have been planning ahead on that would have been smart. I was able to plan ahead really well in some parts of my life, and there was other parts where I didn't plan ahead as well. So it really helps to plan ahead. The second thing I really wanted to talk about was speaking up. I think I did this great. I took a public speaking class. I was doing the YouTube workshop. I was being a new student mentor. I was helping out people on the phone with my pathway job. Like I said, this was such a good semester. However, there were a couple times, like at the pathway team meetings, where I would want to speak up or say something, and I just sometimes be like, Dallin, you've already talked enough. People need to hear you. Or there's like this game that we did, and everyone that was in Pathway this time knows how legendary it was. They had all these teams, and we were all different groups. So there's Team Nintendo and Team, what was it called? That it was called like Team Disney, and you had all these people, and I was like Team Villains, like all these Disney villains. And so they had all these specific weeks and all these challenges with each week, and it was nuts. It was such a well put together thing. It was a big shingding because after that semester, Pathway was going to be moving out of Rexburg to Provo, BYU Provo, and there was times I didn't speak up enough. There was things I could have said, and there was things I could have done, and that's seriously all I can think about. Like as far as that goes, and I'm sure there was other opportunities I didn't speak up, and I didn't give myself the opportunity to change the situation, and that's something I've seen throughout my life, good and bad, is sometimes I will like see somebody doing something and kind of let them do their thing. And then there's other times where I do like kind of talk and get to know them, and you don't have to change everyone's life, and that's impossible anyway. You just be yourself, and you'll touch who you touch, you reach who you reach, you help who you help. Even just by being in class, there's some people that really can be benefited by your presence and your vibe and everything like that. I believe in that wholeheartedly. But there's probably some people that, you know, I could have been a beggar. Um, I mean, this was a semester where I think I drove out and got pizzas and gave them away to this one guy that I knew who was walking with his friend. Just gave him a pizza and drove by and gave him a pizza. So that was super cool. So there's a lot of really good times, but overall, I think speaking up is something I could have done a little bit better at. And it's interesting because was it a struggle? I'd say it was a struggle. I think I overcame the struggle for the most part, but there's still times where I would kind of clam up a little bit. I didn't have the best relationship with my roommates. It definitely was pretty good, but it wasn't the best. We didn't quite see eye to eye on everything. We didn't do apartment dinners really or anything like that. But, speaking up more could have made something like that happen. And I think I did struggle with, I don't know, I think my first semester I was super just all the way out there, just going all out. And this was a semester where I kind of took a step back a little bit and just kind of focused on what I was doing, if that makes sense. So I just, yeah, I could have done better at speaking up and just putting my voice out there. Here's my opinion, here's my thought. And I struggle with that a little bit. But I've struggled with that my whole life, to some degree. Whether I was struggling with it a lot or a little bit, I've, you know, struggled with it because sometimes I think my voice isn't worth hearing or think my thoughts aren't worth listening to. And you know what I've learned with that, and I learned this mostly on my mission, that when you share something, it kind of puts it out into the room and it can benefit who it reaches. It can help people and it can make other ideas come up. So it's really not about what your idea is, it's more about like what thinking brought the idea to pass and then putting the idea out there and what the idea can become from just you putting it out there. The final thing that I thought was a little bit of a struggle from my fall 2018 semester, which was such a good semester. We could make an episode just about how glorious it was. It was so good. Like, really, in every front. Spiritual, I went on dates. I mean, it was a great semester. It really was. But the final thing was nourishing past friendships. This was the semester where my grandma passed away out of nowhere. And that would have been super, super hard. It was super, super hard. But I was already set to go to the temple that day and to worship and just to feel close to God. I was helping out, volunteering in there and helping out. And I was literally on the way, well, just about to leave for that when I got the news. And it was so hard because my grandma, she was doing just fine. She was doing great. You know, we went on this RV trip the right before my first semester and got to see her, and she's like, "I'll see you at Christmas, not too long." And I reached out to her a couple times on Facebook before this happened, but I really didn't like give her a call or reach out. You just assumed you would see her. I assumed I would see her. I assumed a lot of stuff. And it just wasn't true. And I've seen that since then. Like, you never know how much time somebody has. You just don't. And, they had the funeral, and I was all the way out in school, so I couldn't go to the funeral, which was really sad. But, my brother James was still on his mission, so he completely wasn't able to see that, which is rough. But yeah, I think there were some friendships that I made in freshman year, first semester, that I think God really put in my life that I could have like worked on those a little bit more and nourished those. I'm always looking for more friendships, looking for more people to reach out and help. Whether or not I stay in touch with them for long, I don't really care. I just want to make a difference and reach out. And so, yeah, I think I was a little too focused maybe on meeting new people and stuff, and not so much on nourishing my current friendships. So, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thought, but but that's kind of what I was thinking is like all those friendships, there's all these blessings and stuff from each friendship. And if you nourish that, then the seeds can grow as long as the person continues to be kind to you and everything. But I did meet a lot of people in fall 2018, just as I met a lot of people in spring 2018, and really every semester since then. But yeah, I think reaching out to more of those people that I felt like were awesome and stuff, I think that probably would have been pretty good. And I think I did a pretty good job at it, but could have done a little bit better, of course. So that was my thoughts from the fall 2018